Welcome back. Ed.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
Oh, nothing. Just, computers are fun.
What a night it's already been. So we're going to keep the intro short and sweet tonight because we got a lot of show for you tonight. We've already had some interviews that we've been dealing with all night. We've had some computer issues we've been dealing with all night. Obviously, we weren't live because of all of the other stuff we have for you tonight. So
shout out to Hollywood Tech Solutions. Get this stuff fixed.
That's not a shout out at all.
Oh.
I think that's more of a be better.
Yeah, it's a be better.
Anyway, let's get right into biggest game of the weekend for Cincinnati people, UC football. So, UC football. It was a nationally televised loss to the self-proclaimed national champions, UCF. We lost 38-13. We started out pretty strong. We had a pretty long drive. Didn't pan out, as most of our drives did not. But we turned around with a huge sack fumble in the end zone and went up. And then we missed the extra point. And our kicker, Cole Smith, did not make another kick the rest of the night.
That's your best friend.
It's not. I like James Smith, who wears number 37.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yep. Anyway, after that, just the wind in the sails was gone.
It kind of went downhill after that.
The wind in the sails was gone after that missed kick. I don't know what you thought when you were watching the game, but UCF's offense, which is led by quarterback Mackenzie Milton, who, by the way,
is a female name?
No, maybe. I did quasi date a girl named Mackenzie at one point.
Oh, okay.
Oddly enough. But UCF's offense, who's led by Mackenzie Milton, they're fast, man. Like,
they're quick.
I don't even mean just speed of the receivers and all of that. And the quarterback, like I was about to say, he grew up in Hawaii.
Yep.
Played
interviewed
with
his mom.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Multiple times.
She did the hang tough or whatever.
I think she quoted Lilo and Stitch a couple times too.
Maybe. Or Moana.
Oh, was it Moana?
Maybe.
Somebody had tweeted that she literally quoted a movie.
She might have. They're both, I think, based in Hawaii.
They're both good movies too.
Agreed. But she, Mackenzie Milton played like, I don't know if it was high school ball or middle school ball or like Pee-wee or whatever, but he played with Tua from Alabama.
Right.
The quarterback for Alabama, which I
Right.
thought was an interesting thing. But I don't know how the hell I didn't know this before this game, but we are the third youngest team in the NCAA. Did you know that?
I had no clue.
Yeah, I didn't either. But they made sure to talk about that. That was like a huge focal point, which makes sense because here you have this team of Bearcats that can't keep up. They don't know what they're doing. By comparison, you saw it when you see stats like the 379 total yards of offense compared to UCF's 402, which on paper looks great until you see 3 fumbles lost, 2 missed field goals, a missed PAT, in comparison with UCF's 5 touchdowns, 3 fumble recoveries. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
And that's the difference between a very young team when you're talking third youngest in all of football. I blame Tommy Tuberville and the trash heap that he brought here in the time that he was here. But yeah, I mean that's just telling.
They looked outmatched. I mean, they looked young.
They did.
They did.
Agreed.
And I got my hopes up when they did the fumble recovery in the end zone. And I was like, well, okay, we might have something here. But I didn't expect them to win that game.
I got my hopes up a long time ago when we were 4-8 last year, and all of a sudden we have 9 wins.
That's true. But think about it this way. We have 9 wins this year.
We are overachieving, absolutely. And I think that's something that, unfortunately, UC Twitter has forgotten. Because there were so many people that I was seeing out there in UC Twitter that were like, oh, my God, the sky is falling. What the hell is going on? Why can't...
I've learned to weed those people out of my program.
We're young.
Yeah.
And we were 4-8 last year, man.
Exactly. And if we win Friday, we're 10.
So, obviously, there's some needs that UC has. I don't think it's any secret that we, by comparison with UCF, need receivers.
Yep.
I don't think that's a secret. Khalil is our best receiver, and he got injured in the game, as did Michael Warren, actually. Michael Warren out with the shoulder, and Khalil looked like something with his ankle foot. I haven't read up on it, so I'm not entirely sure what he actually injured or if he's going to even be okay. He was writhing around in a lot of pain. That's number one for those of you who don't know. But things that you could be excited about after Michael Warren, who had 18 carries, 81 yards after he left with the shoulder injury. Freshman, and Michael Warren, by the way, is a sophomore, but freshman Tavion Thomas had 12 carries, 79 yards. Desmond Ridder, also a freshman, 11 for 26. Not great, but again, that's the difference between a poise of a freshman versus, I'm not sure how long Mackenzie Milton's been there, but he didn't look like he was a freshman.
No.
But Desmond Ridder had 127 yards, also had 20 carries for 70 yards. He looked at times that he was very poised in that pocket, not making bad throws, not making poor decisions. He wasn't throwing picks all over the place. He still managed to carry an offense to 379 yards against a line that looked really good.
Right.
And I was talking to a buddy of mine who is a huge UCF fan. Rob, I don't know if you're listening, but their defense is not touted as very good.
No, they said that in the show. It wasn't a very good defense.
Against our line, though,
right,
they looked very good. And I don't know if that's a knock on our line or a knock on our age or a knock on our skill level.
I don't think it's a skill level or an age thing. I think it's just it's just young. I think it's just young.
Also a very loud atmosphere. They call it the bounce house for a reason. I don't know if you knew this or not, but the stadium literally bounces from people jumping. They had to reinforce.
That sounds structurally sound.
They went and reinforced everything structurally to make sure that while people are bouncing and you can feel the entire stadium moving, you don't have anything to really worry about because
that's not good.
They've structurally reinforced it.
That's not good. UCF did hit number 9 today in the college football.
Finally, they're in the top 10.
Yeah.
Jesus, it took them long enough. I don't think UC actually left the top 25, did they?
I don't think so.
Which
they stayed where they were.
That's actually kind of nice. I don't. In any case, I know they didn't move from the CFP, so they're still 24 at least in the CFP, which kind of maybe nobody was playing. I have no idea how we didn't move out because last time we lost in overtime to Temple, we immediately had no votes the very next week. I don't know. It's encouraging for me because, A, we got Fickle, and he's not going anywhere after that loss, I don't think. Because I think now he has something to prove. If he had won that game and if he had won the bowl game,
then maybe.
What's left? You did everything. You maybe at that point, because if we beat UCF, I do believe we would have been in the conference championship. Am I wrong? I know there were some different things. Maybe if like Temple loses or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. There were some different things. But in any case, even if he doesn't win a conference championship, even if he goes and beats UCF and wins a bowl game and has 12 wins in a season, what's left to do here at Cincinnati as opposed to going to a bigger school? However, there's a counter argument to that now that the Big 12 is apparently discussing expansion.
Yep, that broke right before we started recording tonight. But let's not do that.
I don't want to get excited about it, but at the same time, if they're at least bringing it back to the table for discussion, that means there's someone or someones that they're already considering. And let's not be silly to think that our name isn't in that hat. We got to at least be one of the two that they're considering. Or I'm sure there's more than two that they're considering. But between us and UCF, there's a pretty good case to be made between football and basketball.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, there is a good case to be made. I'm not going to get my hopes up again.
Well, because how many times have we done this?
Right. Many times.
Anyway, anything else you got on your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, there's still, no matter what happened in that game, it's still a successful season compared to last year. And I think we're just building on for the future. So,
Moving on, UC basketball.
So we won last night.
You were supposed to be there.
Oh, yeah, well, we won't get into that. But Jaron Cumberland.
So
7 points before the first TV timeout.
Which, that's definitely the first time he's done that this year.
Yeah.
He finished the night with 27 against Western Michigan. We routed them 78-52. We also beat earlier this week, right?
Friday night.
This week, Friday
night.
Milwaukee 74-63. Against Milwaukee, all 5 starters were in double digits, led by Broom with 17. That was a big game,
yes,
especially coming after. I still keep going back to Ohio State, even watching against Western Michigan when I was there. You can't not think about a 14% first half against Ohio State. And when you see these guys making shots, it's great to see. But we had 5 starters in double digits. Broom had 17. Trey Scott and Nyseer Brooks both had double-doubles against Milwaukee. In the Western Michigan game, to your point, Jaron had 7 before the first timeout. He finished with 27. Nyseer Brooks also had another double-double. The offense is looking more active.
Yes.
They're moving around much more. They're running plays much more, as opposed to whatever the hell type of ISO offense they were trying to run against Ohio State. It was very strange. The coaches are getting louder, and I don't know if that is a combination of the coaches actually being louder or the fact that there's less people against Western Michigan and Milwaukee in the arena. Milwaukee was actually pretty crowded with it being a Friday night, but Western Michigan was not. But some of my takeaways from the games, Keith Williams, who's a sophomore.
Still good.
I think he's actually the most improved player this year.
He didn't get very much playing time last year.
Again.
Okay, all right.
If he's making shots, he's driving to the hole, he's not afraid to have the ball in his hands.
Right.
It was a real close toss-up between him and Trey Scott for me. As if I'm looking at who's the most improved player thus far. I know it's a pretty small sample size.
Right.
But Trey Scott is also not afraid to shoot the ball. Not behind the arc.
Nope.
Not down low. He's banging around down there. He's throwing his body around. Let's be real, none of our forwards or centers really have a whole lot of weight to throw around outside of maybe Saseme. But in any case, Keith Williams, probably still my most improved player this year so far. Also, I love seeing Logan Johnson out there.
Who doesn't? Lojo?
Yeah. He's this spark and continues to be. It wasn't like just a 1 or 2 game thing. Like,
right.
Every time he's out there, he's just bouncing off the walls. And it's really cool to see a freshman doing that and having that type of effect on the crowd. I was actually on my way out the door yesterday with about, 4 or 5 minutes left. Ran to the bathroom, walked back in, checked the score real quick, saw that Logan was in, snatched a seat right by the entrance.
Let's watch this for a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, I know there's only 3.5 minutes left, but Logan's in. I want to see if he's doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, he actually drew me back into the game. So, I don't know. I mean, that dude's going to be really fun to watch. I know we were talking earlier about UC football and how young they are. And I think we've even had conversations, you and I, about how old we thought some of these players were. And I just want to run down, as we haven't done yet, who is how old on this team.
Okay.
So we're going to be graduating Justin Jennifer and Kane Broom. That's it.
Say the rest of them are pretty young.
Juniors, Nyseer Brooks, Trey Scott, Jaron Cumberland, Rashawn Fredericks, who I don't think he's getting enough PT yet. Because when he has the ball in his hands, he's not afraid to drive to the hoop.
No.
He's not afraid to shoot.
Yes.
And the difference between Kane Broom averaging 20 points and Rashawn Fredericks averaging 20 points as JUCO players is Kane Broom's getting pushed around because he's a small dude in Division I.
Right.
Rashawn Fredericks is not a small dude.
Nope.
He's not Jaron Cumberland as a tank. going from the arc to the cup, but he's not a small dude either. He's playing the 3. He's floating between the 2 and the 3. But he's not built to be a 2, I don't think.
No.
I think he's built more to be a 3.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He looks good, though.
He's getting less than 10 minutes every game, though.
Yeah. As this team matures throughout the next year into next season, then we'll get back into the... Like I said, this team's going to be exciting to watch the young guys play, and we're not going to win a lot of games. We're not gonna, like past teams, unless Jaron Cumberland plays like he did last night. But it's going to be a fun team to watch. It's going to be a fun team to watch develop, I think.
Well, I'm going to continue going through this list, though. John Kaz, walk-on. He's the one with the biceps that are bigger than my thighs.
Where'd that guy come from?
I don't know. He's a junior. Sophomores are going to be Keith Williams, Trevor Moore, who I think is actually digressing. He was supposed to be an excellent outside shooter.
Right.
I don't think he's hit the rim with an outside shot yet this year. He's had a couple, and it's been ugly. He cut his hair. Oddly enough, did notice that this last game.
I did not.
2 games ago. Elio Soseme is also a sophomore, and everyone's favorite walk-on Sam Martin. Freshmen are going to be Logan Johnson, Mamadou Diarra, LaQuil Hardnett, who I don't believe has seen the court yet, along with Prince Gillum, Toyambi. And I'm going to guess that they're trying to redshirt both LaQuil and Prince Gillum.
Knowing Mick, yes, that's what he'll be doing.
So the only other thing of note I have for UC basketball, unless you have anything else, is there's still no sign of Oscar Robertson.
No.
Except for his picture when he was a young buck on the wall next to all the other retired.
I wish he had a Twitter page so we could ask him what's up.
He wouldn't know how to respond.
I'll see if I can get Bone to respond to me.
As we're still running through this stuff again fairly quickly, so we can get to some of the longer stuff that we have for you later on. FCC. All indications are that Kenny Walker will not be back. Did you see his goodbye message?
Yes, I saw that on Twitter, yeah.
So I know that it probably feels like Ed and I kind of half-ass our FCC coverage. And
we don't half-ass it. We're still learning the sport.
It doesn't go unwarranted that we haven't been to neither of us went to a game this year. That's fair.
That's true.
So I will say, yeah, we kind of half-assed
Fair argument.
It still kind of hurt reading his goodbye letter. Are you pulling it up?
Yep.
So as he's doing that, we'll get back to that. So far for next year for the MLS, the only names that we know that have been reported by different media outlets are Fernando Adi. If you guys remember, we have referred to him as Cincinnati since the jump, and it was stolen from us. Fatai Alash, Corbin Bone, who apparently married somebody from Northwest. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yeah, so now we got a connection to the MLS. Emmanuel Ledesma, who was the USL MVP. Jimmy McLaughlin, and Forrest Lasso. Did you find that? Kenny Walker?
I did. Let's see. It's almost like 3 paragraphs.
It's long. You don't have to read all of it. But
I would like to say to all my wonderful teammates and people, I got a chance to be around in the past 3 years here at FC Cincinnati. I have amazing memories and accomplishments to look back on here in Cincinnati. It has been an honor to be a part of this club and city over the past 3 years and doing something that will change this city forever. And to every single guy who put on the FCC jersey, all the respect and love because we built something special. Soccer gives me so much more than just the game, and I truly experienced that here in Cincinnati. From building lifelong relationships with teammates and friends that will go well beyond the game of soccer to meeting so many amazing families in Cincinnati Children's Hospital and to the best soccer fans that I've ever experienced on and off the field. Thank you so much to the ownership group for giving me a chance to play for such a special club. Cincinnati will always have a special meaning to me and my family. I know the future is going to be bright for FCC. Thank you.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Kenny Walker was here for all 3 years of FCC's existence. He was one of the few. And I gotta be honest, I mean, I can only imagine how people who are diehards feel. But I think the city's going to miss him.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I immediately hope that they bring him on in some sort of coaching staff sense, because I know after reading up on him a little bit, he has flirted with the idea of retirement before this whole situation even started to come about. And he attributes it to the fact that he's 29 and it's tough for him to keep up with some of the younger kids.
Well,
which is crazy.
Soccer's it beats you up, man.
I guess.
I mean, it kills your knees, and it's a rough. It's not football, but it's football. It's not American football, but it's yeah.
You got to figure most of these guys have been playing since they were like 3, 4, 5. It's not something that you just pick up. Like sometimes you'll see a tall dude do from another country,
right?
And Joel Embiid had been playing for like 3 years before he was really good. So, in any case, the only other thing I have on FCC, the hell is going on with Milford Complex?
You said something on your drive over, but I didn't find anything on the Milford community pages.
It's on
I checked WCPO.
It's on the Enquirer. They are apparently having to rework the deal and refinalize. They're scheduled to vote Tuesday night on a new document, and it's probably that dude again.
Him and I don't get along.
It's supposed to serve several purposes. It's going to involve Milford's ability to issue debt and reimburse FCC training facility $3.5 million of the $5 million land costs for the soccer facility per original agreements. It also includes terms relating to Milford's contribution of the land to the county's Port Authority and the Port Authority's subsequent lease of the land to FCC Training Facility LLC.
It must not be that big of a deal because I cannot find it on Cincinnati's website.
Yeah, there's a lot. Money generated by the tax will go directly to what tax?
Here's the thing. They already have the...
Oh, it's the 1% hotel tax and all that. It's basically just money distribution.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And probably the county's like, oh, there's money to be made? How do we make more? Just trying to complicate things, even though the land's already been bought and everything's already been set in motion. So now they're like, break me off a piece. Be better, Milford.
Well, I mean, look, the field is already down. They already have the outdoor field down, so there's no turning back at this point.
Well, if you got more to report after you hear more from your Milford sites, well, let us know.
I'll look for it.
All right. Moving on to the Reds. They added 2 new coaches this week. J.R. House is joining us as the new third base / catching coach. He spent the last 7 seasons with the Diamondbacks. D-backs. Last season, he was a minor league coordinator under Mike Bell, who is our new manager, David Bell's brother. So I'm sure he came with a raving review.
Sure, yeah.
Talk to who you got at Connections, man. That's not a bad connection.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Donnie Ecker is our new assistant hitting coach. Last year, he was with the LA Angels, AAA Salt Lake affiliate, as a hitting coach. And he also, before that, spent 3 years with the St. Louis club, Cardinals. I'm not sure at which level he was at with them. But the only 2 coaches that have not been ruled out as returning for next season are Freddie Benavides and Billy Hatcher, who, if you remember correctly, were also candidates for the general manager position. We had 9 coaches last year, and currently we have 5, I believe, between the 2 new hires with J.R. House and Donnie Ecker, and also the manager, David Bell, pitching coach, Derek Johnson, hitting coach, Turner Ward, that we talked about last week. All new hires have been highly regarded for their data analysis and focus on mechanics. It sounds like they're literally doing exactly what I said when we needed to bring in a new coaching staff, and they're changing the entire culture. Now, the only other hope I have on top of this is that it doesn't stop at the major league level, but that it continues on down through the system.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to have that. I'm so tired of being the farm team for all the other teams.
Yeah.
Like the actual MLB farm team.
Mm-hmm.
So, more coaching. I mean, like you said, that's a good thing. Let's get these guys, some new guys in here, some new blood, some new culture, and let's move on and win. I don't want another season like last year.
Well, all right.
I don't.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. So, tonight we have another special guest. We have my big brother in my fraternity, pretty much in my life as well. He was part of my wedding party along with Ed, who sits here with me once a week.
I say my name every week.
While you listen. He is formerly of ESPN 1410 in Dayton, and also my alma mater, Wright State, for all you knuckleheads who don't know where I went to college.
Well, it took you 3 months to get your profile up on the website, so
that's fine. Be better, right?
Yeah.
So we have Brandon Kunkle.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. That's WWSU at Wright State University, just to clarify there. Sports director there, spent some time at 1410 ESPN Dayton here, covering the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Cincinnati Reds, as well as other teams in the state of Ohio. No, you don't have to live in Cincinnati. You could also live in Dayton, much like I do. And even though I'm closer to Cincy, I've been a Browns fan my whole life, and I think that's what's landed me on the podcast this week.
Be better, Aaron.
I know. We had a punctuation pardon already. Dang.
Way to go.
Be better.
I'll keep them to a minimum.
No, that was on me. I was excited about actually getting to mention Wright State and jacked up the call letters.
The Redders.
So, we do have a segment that when you're on, we're going to call it Bo Knows, because those who are close to you do actually refer to you as Bo, which stands for Brandon Oliver, being your middle name. But we do thank you for coming on the show, taking time out of your night tonight. So, we got Cleveland coming up this week.
I'm honored to be here. I am honored to have my own segment in my first appearance. That's very humbling as well. But yeah, it is a great week of football in the state of Ohio. You have the Battle of Ohio, Cincinnati versus Cleveland, or Cleveland versus Cincy, depending on where you live in the state, as well as the game with the Buckeyes taking on that team up north this weekend. So a lot of great things in football looking forward to this weekend, and I think we got ourselves a pretty good matchup lined up come Sunday afternoon.
I wouldn't have said that roughly about 4 or 5 weeks ago, that it was going to be a good matchup.
No, I wouldn't have said it either.
Since then, you've seen the Bengals go from hero to zero. You've seen Hugh Jackson literally drive right down 71 to his new old 75. Home. Yeah, his new old home. Yeah,
as the assistant to the head coach,
to the regional
head coach,
assistant to the regional, assistant to the head coach in waiting, whatever you want to call him now. Yeah, it's funny. I knew that obviously that's a huge topic in this matchup. It makes a lot of sense for Hugh to go back, quote unquote, home to Cincy. Worked with Marvin, multiple stops in Cincy, and much like you guys touched on previously in the podcast, that they play Cleveland twice still, and they prepare for the rest of the AFC North that Hugh has seen a little bit this week this year, as well as the last couple of years while coaching in Cleveland. So it makes a lot of sense. And Hugh has also he's also coached a lot of different positions. He's been the offensive coordinator, head coach. Obviously, he's been position coaches, and with Marvin taking over the defense, I think that having Hugh as his right-hand man helps with, one, head coaching responsibilities, and two, an extra set of eyes to prepare the defense and know what they got going in every week, not just obviously the Cleveland week. So,
well, it also helps, that we just had Baltimore. You would have thought that, seeing as he had already prepared for Baltimore twice, that would have helped a little bit more. And maybe it did. Maybe otherwise it would have been worse than 24-21 that we did lose. But we also have Pittsburgh coming up, which he's also prepared for. Twice, correct?
Yep.
He's played twice, yeah. But not with the elite caliber of a quarterback that Andy Dalton is.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. we can get into that conversation a little bit. And I'm not trying to get too statty here, but if you want to dive right in, before, if we will, I was hoping that we would do what's in Brandon's fridge to start off the show. To start off the segment, I should say.
As an homage to what it is that you do in everyday life, correct?
Of course. And I was waiting anxiously for us to get this thing rolling, and so I did not crack this beer. I may have had one prior to, but since I am representing Cleveland in my appearance here on the podcast, it's only fitting that I go with and I'm going to pour as I'm talking here, I go with a Cleveland-based brewery, one of my personal favorites, for two reasons. One, their beers are really good. I will try to keep it PG, but they're pretty kick-ass, if you will. And another, it's also in my portfolio that I do sell on a day-to-day basis. Fathead Brewery. It's actually in Middlebrook Heights up there, just outside of Cleveland. And the beer that I am drinking now, consuming, I'm actually smelling, getting the aromas, if you will, is Fathead's Headhunter. It's a 7.5% India Pale Ale, a West Coast IPA, if you will, and it is actually the most award-winning IPA in the state of Ohio. This was bottled just 12 days ago on 11/8/18, so it's super fresh. And when Headhunter is super fresh, there's not much better than it in the state of Ohio. So I will raise a glass to you, gentlemen. I hope you have a beer in front of you. Cheers.
Well, while we're at it, I know Ed actually has a special one because Cincinnati just opened up a new tap house downtown.
Did?
Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
Sam Adams. Yep. Opened up a new tap house downtown.
Oh, this is the one in the old tunnels.
I don't know where it's located, but I know they just opened up. Yeah.
Well, I'll Google that.
All right. So he has he'll tell you about it.
Well, I have this Sam 76, refreshing flavor, whatever. It's a lager ale, craft beer. It's probably good because it's from Cincinnati.
It's actually not from Cincinnati.
Well, it's canned here in Cincinnati.
It's canned in Boston, Massachusetts.
It's that product is actually canned and brewed and canned in Boston.
Oh, it says it right here on the side.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was just a little toast to something going on in our city.
I'll be better.
And because we are running out of things to get at Kroger that we haven't had before.
I prefer when you guys drink Mad Tree and Urban Artifact because those are two of my Cincinnati breweries. Also, I know you guys have done some Old Firehouse as well, which is down there in Williamsburg. So there's a few breweries in my book down there from your neck of the woods. So
if they would just crack open more of the 6-packs at Kroger so I could mix and match a little bit more, that would help out.
You need to come up here to some of the Krogers in our area. They got great Pick 6 varieties there for you. So,
is it frowned upon to crack a existing?
Yes, absolutely. I cannot stand when a customer takes it upon themselves to create their own Pick 6 by reaching into a 6-pack and pulling out a bottle or a can.
I'll stop doing
That's actually illegal as well.
Oh, no, I didn't do it.
Illegal,
that wasn't me. It was Aaron.
You say. Huh.
Illegal,
I've never actually done it, but I did wrong.
I digress.
Really bad.
We're not here to talk about beer. We're here to talk about Browns Bengals 2018, correct?
Real quick, I got one more. I'm actually drinking Ryan Guy's dad. It was my dad's birthday this week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Happy birthday, Craig Lee.
Cheers to Craig Lee.
We do miss you, Dad. Just a hoppy red ale. Looks like 6%, 48 IBU.
Is that the one that's
been in there? That is their winter seasonal / Christmas seasonal that they put out every year.
It's a flannel can.
Tis the season.
It is a flannel can.
So let's go Browns and Bengals.
All right. So I don't want to get too statty, and I can't say that I knew all of this. I will say that I didn't know all this off the top of my head. I just did a lot of show prep last night as I was watching that epic Monday Night Football matchup, which I hope you two old fogies were able to stay up till midnight and a half to catch that game. Did you?
The Madden game?
I didn't watch it.
The Madden game, yes.
I watched it.
I know Ed didn't watch it. Ed doesn't watch football.
I was playing NBA 2K.
Well, I tell you what, I regretted staying up that late, but it was a phenomenal game to watch, and
it really
I was able to prep for the show. So, for those of you who missed it, it's an instant classic. You'll be able to go back and watch it. It was a hopefully maybe a preview of the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think the Saints are a force to be reckoned with as well, but
Agreed.
We're not going to dive into the rest of the league. Again, we're talking Browns Bengals. All time 89 meetings. 89 meetings. Do you know when the first meeting of the Bengals Browns were in the NFL?
I'm going to guess about 44 years ago.
So I'm kind of going to test you guys. I got a couple of questions mixed in with some of my background with the matchups here. So October 11th, 1970 was the first regular season meeting between the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati actually leads the series 50-39 in the 89 meetings, dating back to the 70s, to 1970, excuse me. And Cleveland actually won the very first regular season matchup, 30-27. But did you know that Cleveland and Cincinnati played 3 times in 1970?
Wow.
No.
In the playoffs and 2 divisional?
Of course you didn't. No, they actually played a preseason game that Cincinnati won. And then Cleveland went on to win the first regular season matchup, 30-27. Cincinnati won the second game of that season, 14-10. So they split the regular season there. Both teams won at home in that first year. And Cincinnati beat Cleveland in that second matchup, 14-10, and they went on to win their final 7 games of the season and win the AFC Central by 1 game over the Cleveland Browns.
Got him.
Yeah, that's. I was pretty impressed to know that. I mean, obviously, we weren't born in the '70s, and there were some decades of some good football and some bad football for both of these organizations. But the largest margin of victory is actually 34 points by both teams. In 1987, Cleveland won 34-0. In 2015, Cincinnati won 37-3. So there's some more similarities there. Longest win streaks are actually 7 by both teams. Cleveland from 1992 to 1995, and then sadly, Cincinnati from 2014 to the present. So y'all are rocking a 7-game win streak right now that we're looking to snap. Another. This is the $100 question here.
Thanks
if you guys watch Game Day, Reese Davis will do the $100 question. If you did your research and you know it, I'm not going to pay you $100, but do you know who the Cleveland Browns head coach was during their 7-game win streak back in the early 90s?
Paul Brown.
No,
in the 90s?
in the early 90s.
I was going back in the 70s. Back to that one. Early 90s? Was it Shula?
No. It was
The Browns head coach during that stretch, that 7-game win
Browns
streak.
coach during that stretch, not the Bengals?
No, the Browns.
Correct.
Oh, that would have been Bill Belichick.
That's what I was looking for. Bill Belichick.
Ding, ding, ding. You
How's it
guys
going,
win.
buddy?
I'm not paying you $100, but at least you were prepared there. Bill Belichick went 8-2 versus Cincinnati, including that 7-game win streak. So, it's who would have thought that, old Bill, what he was doing in Cleveland before Art Modell crushed the city of Cleveland and moved them to Baltimore, and they eventually drafted Ray Lewis and won a Super Bowl, and the rest is history. But not to be a downer on the city of Cleveland and the Browns organization, and I'd say rest in peace Art Modell, but I wouldn't really mean it. I digress.
How many quarterbacks ago was that?
Keeping with a little bit more of the background here, finishing up, both teams won 10 in the 20 matchups in the 1970s, so actually split the decade of the 70s. Cincinnati made the playoffs 3 times. Cleveland made the playoffs twice. Neither of them won a playoff game. Go figure, right?
Imagine.
And then, but if you look at that, there's 5 appearances in 10 years for the combined both teams. Also, both teams were pretty good in the 80s. We were all pretty young back then. I'm not that much older than you guys, but we were too young to really remember what those teams were in the 80s, so to speak. Obviously, you do know the history, and the Bengals played in 2 Super Bowls back in the 80s, and the Browns actually appeared in 3 AFC championship games. So in 5 of the 10 years, the AFC was represented pretty well by Cincinnati and Cleveland. So, there's a lot of similarities between these 2 organizations. Obviously, I hope most of you, and not you two, but most of the people listening know the backstory with Paul Brown and the organizations and the AFL and the NFL and all that. I'm not going that far back. I'm just going the actual Bengals-Browns rivalry dating back to the 70s here. So, and of course, we already talked about Art Modell. There's no reason to bring him up again. So.
Well, you also brought up the game last night. What you didn't bring up is we have the second highest score in a game ever.
Yes, I was actually at that ball game. It was a incredible game to be at, much like I'm sure last night's was, which is more electric because of the contemporary, theme of the NFL. But looking at that, what is it, 14 years ago, that was unheard of back then. For 2 teams to put up almost 50 points. I mean, it literally.
Not
story.
Each.
And I will say we were at Cincinnati, and we were there, and it was such a great game. Literally, even Browns and Bengals fans were high-fiving each other because it was an incredible atmosphere. And obviously the Bengals got the best of us in that matchup. And my mom was actually wearing a big yellow heavy winter coat. And so after the game was over and the Bengals had won, it wasn't. We were upset. We lost, but it was such a great game. We were all pretty happy, and I started pointing at her she's really a Steelers fan, and then they just ragged on her hardcore. It was hilarious, but it was one of my greatest, the greatest live sporting events I've ever been to. Actually,
I'm sure you didn't want the game to end.
No, you root for overtime at that point because it's absolutely incredible. And last night I was not rooting for overtime because I was I got to go to bed, But it was the way that game was going, it was almost like it was destined for it. When St. Louis scored that last time with
L.A.
With a minute or so, or I'm sorry, the Rams scored with a minute or 2 left. I was that's too much time.
Yeah.
I dozed off on the couch.
Yeah. Right
before halftime. Last night, and I remember seeing the Rams scoop and score that fumble, and I dozed off. I woke up at halftime, and it was tied. I'm like, oh my gosh! I had to go to my phone and check at the app, and sure enough, the Chiefs got the ball back and drove down and scored with 15 seconds left. I was like, all right, I got to get up, get the blood flowing. I got to be able to watch the rest of this game. Oh yeah, by the way, I also got to prep for this podcast tomorrow.
So.
So 1980s, the Bengals won this series. 10-9. That's my stat.
10-9.
The whole
and
80s.
Way to contribute there, Ed. Hashtag Wikipedia. The reason that it's an odd number is because of the strike in the 80s. The second matchup of the year was canceled.
One up to me. All right.
Not to get too statty or anything.
Well, the Browns
have to get too statty.
6 in the 90s.
But here's all of my stats.
It's just that's more knowledge. It's not necessarily stats. I got Cleveland stats sitting in front of me. I got stat leaders here. I got what they did last week versus Atlanta. I got what the Bengals have to prepare for coming into this week.
Well, and I was going to bring that up because obviously, we lost 24-21 to Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson put up 117 rush yards on us to go along with his 150 or so pass yards. Gus Edwards had 115. He's an undrafted free agent running back who, I don't know if it's the river dance or the fumbles of Alex Collins that Baltimore doesn't like, but they picked up the guy that Green Bay discarded after he got on Aaron Rodgers' nerves.
Mm-hmm. They traded for Ty Montgomery at the trade deadline.
And they also had Javorius Buck Allen, who looks like he's 45. So they went with the rookie. So with that being said, I see a lot of similarities between Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards and what they were able to do to us. That you guys have kind of coming in with a very mobile Baker Mayfield, along with somebody who I have on my fantasy football team who's paid off in dividends, Nick Chubb. I don't know. It's a very strange thing because Cincinnati has been heralded for its defense up until Paul Gunther was gone and we brought in Terrell Austin.
Yep.
And we've been decimated by injury on both sides of the ball. But you got so many big names and so much money invested in this defense. Did you see this coming with this defense, and are you even scared of this defense at this point?
Well, I tell you what, I've got Cleveland stats galore here to talk about and rave about my young team and how good they are and what you have to prepare for. But I'm realistic too, and know what we got going into Cincinnati. By the way, the Cleveland Browns have not won a road game since 2015, which is very easy to believe because they have not won very many games at all since 2015. But I truly believe that when Cincinnati is 100% healthy, they have the talent to compete for a division title. There's tons of weapons on offense and on defense, but the defense has been very inconsistent and, yes, been decimated by injuries. Obviously, Vontaze being suspended, guys getting banged up. Hubbard missed some time, getting thin. Also, do you guys hear the breaking news today, which is going to be one of my keys to the game?
Yeah, Preston's out for the rest of the season.
Your boy Preston Brown placed on IR today, which is, I just said, my keys to the game notes that I added this afternoon. But I really think, like I said, there's a lot of talent, a lot of weapons on offense, and there's a lot of people who give Andy Dalton a lot of grief. There's a lot of Bengals fans who are like Jekyll and Hyde. That's why I don't want to say that I hate Bengals fans because that's not appropriate to say on the Cincinnati podcast, but there's so many fair-weathered Cincinnati fans that are such big homers when you're good and you're such dirt bags when you're bad, and Andy is always the scapegoat. I was never high on him. Out of TCU, nobody really knew who he was, and I think that the Bengals, I wouldn't say they reached on him, but they knew something that some other teams didn't, and he's been a good quarterback for you guys and throughout his career. I'll get into him a little bit later here as far as the matchup goes, but as far as the defense is concerned, if you guys weren't so decimated by injuries, I would be like, we don't know what to do. Are we going to be able to run the ball? Do we have to throw the ball? Hugh is going to be able to help with the game plan there, but with Preston Brown being out, not that your D line that you paid a buttload of money for is underperforming, but they're taking a lot of the heat. There's a lot of pressure when you dump millions of dollars into some rushers and they're not getting the sacks. Well, here's the thing, if the offensive line that they're facing can block those guys and get into the running backs and anybody out of the backfield or whoever has the ball can get to the next level. You guys talked about Vontaze missing 4 games, somehow forgot how to tackle. Missed tackles, inexperience back there. Your corners and safeties have been banged up. Your corners and safeties have been very inconsistent this year as well. For me, I think that if we can protect Baker Mayfield from that very good pass rush, I think that we have the ability to make some big plays, because I think that you get guys like Chubb or Jarvis Landry over the middle, or the ball with Duke Johnson in space, or hell, Baker with his feet. You get into space and you make some guys in the middle miss. I like my chances against your secondary. I'm not saying that our receivers are going to burn them all day long, but I mean, as far as like open field tackling and stuff like that, I've seen a lot of big plays because of the inconsistency in defense. So I really think it boils down to you're not healthy. You've got some talent back there, but you're also kind of young and inexperienced, and losing a guy like Preston Brown is going to hurt you guys. And again, you guys have ragged on some of your DBs, and how they've been playing this year.
Yep.
I honestly think that I would be more concerned if we were looking at this game,
week
3 or 4 games ago, kind of like you said, compared to where we stand now going into week 11 or 12.
So
11,
you were talking about inconsistency. Now you guys you traded away Corey Coleman in the preseason, as was publicized by Hard Knocks. You also traded away Josh Gordon. You fired Hugh. You fired Todd Haley. What the hell's going on with your offense up there?
So and I'm glad you asked that, because I've seen the evolution of this offense over the course of some weeks. I was very fortunate enough that obviously not this week because we were on a bye, but the previous week Sunday ticket was free, and so I got to watch the Browns beat the Falcons, and it was fun to watch. Something's going on there in Atlanta I'm not really sure about, but we reaped the benefit there. It's a young core. Obviously, Baker being a rookie, Chubb being a rookie. You look at some question marks at the line. We had a first ballot Hall of Famer left tackle just up and retire on us, going into the season. Now, granted, he had suffered, Joe Thomas suffered the worst injury he ever had in his whole career. I get it, but the expectations in Cleveland, I think, were a little lofty from some people. Six wins, 8 wins. We could push for a playoff spot. I was never on that train. I honestly thought, 4 wins was very, very realistic. 6 wins was a stretch. 500 would have been like, holy hell, hallelujah, let's throw another parade. But we're sitting at 3-6-1, and we honestly could have, should have, would have beat Pittsburgh week 1. We very well could be 500 right now. And I think that now that this new offensive coordinator, Freddie Kitchens, played quarterback at Alabama. He's been a coordinator. He's got some experience. He's taken over this offense, and I think it's going to just be fun. Like, Greg Williams is interim head coach, defensive coordinator. He's going to run the defense. He's got some head coaching experience in the past, but I think he has no say in the offense, as opposed to how Hugh kind of wanted to hold on, and Todd Haley didn't have full control, and it's that whole internal struggle. I really thought if Hugh would have got fired, that Haley would have been in place to be the next interim head coach and take over the offense and have full control. But I think Dorsey and ownership said, no, sorry, you're not going to be the interim head coach, and he didn't like that, and that's why he got fired an hour later. But I really do think that this young offense with Baker and Nick, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb going into this game, I think those two guys are really really have a chance to shine and really have a chance to put their name on the map. Not that they aren't already, against again, inconsistent and injury-riddled defense.
Well, so you bring up Greg Williams being your head coach, even if it is interim. He actually was making headlines talking about there were several teams out there that I wouldn't even have to interview. They just wanted me to walk in and be head coach. So should you be so lucky to have him as your head coach?
I appreciate the arrogance. If you want to say all that stuff, that grandeur, that you're what, don't stink, and but at the same time, you were out of the league. You were kind of shunned after the whole Bounty Gate thing in New Orleans after the Super Bowl. He had some success in St. Louis because he was in St. Louis when he was at the Rams. I liked the hire, I really did, and sadly, the downfall is I don't know that he has a shot at the head coaching job. And I think that if he's not the head coach, he's probably not around next year, which sucks because I think he's a great defensive coordinator. I really think that a new head coach will come in and bring in his coordinators, and there's a chance that he probably won't be around. No, I may be wrong. He may have a chance to get the job. If he were to rattle off some wins and have a good resume going into the offseason, maybe. But I honestly think that an offensive-minded coach is what's got to come in here and get people excited and get ride off, what Baker's done so far and what Chubb has done so far, and you got Landry and you got a young receiving core and really a good defense, which we haven't talked about the Browns' defense yet, which is I think why the Browns have a good shot this weekend. They are a little healthier and a little bit better. So to say Greg Williams could just walk in and sign a contract, well, good on you. But he's really, truly auditioning for the Browns head coaching job this year.
Also, he's a liar.
Touché.
So, let's be real. Like, You literally were the guy who headed Bounty Gate. Nobody's just trying to bring you in as like the face of your franchise without
the only way I believe that is if he could have walked in and gotten the Browns head coaching job one time previously. That's the only way. That's honestly the only way I believe that.
Speaking of which, Tony Pike is still bitter about Bounty Gate.
Really?
Well, hey, not to detract from Ed's point there, but if the Browns were considering Condoleezza Rice for their head coach, they probably would have just signed Greg Williams without an interview.
So that was my question, because you mentioned that he'll bring in his own defense. Are you eliminating Condoleezza? I mean,
she thankfully eliminated herself. She knows she's not qualified, and it's not being sexist. And I'm not discrediting her contributions to the United States of America.
What a weird storyline.
Nobody knew what the hell she was doing on the college football playoff committee.
Agreed.
And I think that, the concept of running a business and running a country and all that stuff, yeah, great. But she doesn't know how to run an organization as far as from a sports standpoint. And honestly, and I'm not going to go into a whole other tangent, but there's conversations about that, honestly, both in the Cleveland organization as well as the Browns. Or I'm sorry, as well as the Buckeyes. Like, being a head coach, you don't necessarily have to be the offensive guru or the defensive guru. You got to be the master motivator. You got to be the organizer. You got to have the culture. You got to be the one to bring the culture to your program or organization.
Or you can be Marvin Lewis.
Say that again?
Or you can be Marvin Lewis.
Or you can be Marvin Lewis, who will just let Mike Brown be content with mediocrity, have a decent season, lose in the playoffs, and then boom, you got a 4-year extension.
So are you saying she has to be an influential person?
He or she?
Saying to take over the Browns head coaching job, or Condi Rice?
Because
personally,
she was 4 times the times 100 most influential people.
You want to try that again?
And I got what he was saying. I don't discredit that from her, on that standpoint. But would she be that influential on a 53-man roster full of grown-ass men who are looking to go out and beat the snot out of their opponent?
Well, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Can you imagine a Condi Rice pregame speech? Like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, in 2004 and 2005, she was ranked the most powerful woman in the world by Forbes.
Listen to Ed getting all statty over here.
Number 2 in 2006.
I prepped for Cincy Cleveland. He prepped for Condi Rice.
You threw a challenge down about him being prepped.
The wiki's just great. All I have to do is type
You say the wikis or the whiskeys?
Both.
Both.
Attaboy.
Yeah. So, getting back to actual football. Just to kind of pick your brain a little bit, who's been more impressive this year to you, Baker Mayfield or Nick Chubb?
So, yeah, this is an opportunity for me to get a little statty for you. Baker, 8 games, technically 7.5 played as he took over that second half of the Jets game. Just 16 yards short of 2,000 yards passing for the year, 1984 passing. 13 TDs, 7 picks, kind of a lot. But an 87.5 passer rating, very athletic. I love what he brings to the field, his competitiveness. Now, I will never forgive Baker Mayfield for trying to plant the flag in a turf field. There's a lot of Buckeye haters who praise Baker Mayfield for that reason. I actually was gifted a bright orange Baker Mayfield jersey recently from my mom as an early Christmas present that I will wear proudly because I am a Baker Mayfield fan. You know me, I'm a football guy at heart. Football, baseball growing up. Football took over for me in high school. That was my number one sport as far as my favorite being my favorite and my passion. I coached high school football for 6 years. That's the kind of kid that I wanted to coach. That's the kind of kid I wanted to play with. And surprisingly, he's only rushed for 111 yards with no rushing touchdowns, and he's fumbled the ball 5 times. So Baker has turned the ball over 12 times between interceptions and fumbles. I am very impressed with his poise as a rookie, his athletic playmaking ability, and what he can do on the field as a motivator as well as a ball player. The future is bright for Baker Mayfield. But honestly, I've been more impressed with Nick Chubb. I was very high on the pick when it happened. I preferred the other Chubb in the early round. I wanted Bradley Chubb.
Right.
I kind of thought that
Did you know they're cousins?
Bradley Chubb, Baker Mayfield combination, but I'm also very high on Denzel Ward. Go Bucks. But Nick Chubb, 579 yards on 94 attempts and 5 rushing TDs. Last week he went 20 attempts for 176 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches, 33 yards, and another touchdown. And his one rushing touchdown, that 92-yard rushing TD, was a Cleveland Browns record for longest touchdown.
He's broken off several 90-yard.
I really thought it was going to be great for a kind of a two-headed monster with Hyde and Duke, and then bring Chubb along. I know why they did it. They said, all right, we're not going to compete for a playoff spot. We can get some value out of this guy, who actually, Carlos Hyde also has 5 rushing TDs for the Browns. So him and Hyde and Chubb are tied with 5 rushing TDs to lead the Browns. So Hyde had that before the trade. And we got a draft pick back for him, and he's not really contributed yet to Jacksonville, and I miss him because he was a Buckeye, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns, the night before he went off and had a baby. It was a great story, and we kind of miss him, but it really did open the door for Nick Chubb's coming out party. He was a monster at Georgia, had some really great numbers, had a horrific ACL injury, and Georgia's the kind of school that can bring in, Division I caliber, Heisman caliber running backs left and right. So when they brought in, now I can't think of his name, it's escaping me. Oh, Sonny Michel, who's now in New England. Mm-hmm. They had Michel. They had Swift, who's still at Georgia, who was a true freshman. They had 3 legit NFL running backs on that roster. So Chubb's senior year, coming back off that injury, not quite, maybe not quite Heisman type numbers like he could have put up if he was 100% healthy, maybe his junior year, but I'm 100% satisfied and all on the Nick Chubb train, and really excited to see what he can do as the lead back, the feature back in this offense.
So you mentioned that Baker only has 112 yards scrambling.
111 yards.
111 with 5 fumbles.
Yes, and in that Jets game, he actually finished with -2 rushing yards.
Which is kind of crazy to me because the Jets are falling apart. Todd Bowles can't even do an interview without sounding like he's on an exit interview. But no, I mean, you see a rookie come in and I hate to keep drawing the comparison, but it's inevitable. Lamar Jackson, we just had him here.
Do you have to say that name?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So he doesn't. I don't feel anyway that he had the same poise on the field that Baker Mayfield carries himself with ever since he first came in for an injured. How are we pronouncing his name these days? Tyrod or Tyrod?
Tyrod.
He's always going to be Tyrod Taylor to me, but Tyrod, a.k.a. Tyrod, according to Hard Knocks.
And his mother, apparently.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, I mean, because they kind of had the same system, I feel like anyway, back in college. Baker was scampering around all the time, and to see him not translate that portion of his game to the NFL kind of surprises me.
Well, to be honest, here's the difference. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, well, in the Big 12 in general, that is definitely a passing league. That is wide open, very little defense, air it out. That's what we saw last night was like that. What we see in the Big 12 week in and week out, what we see at Ohio State right now. They're not playing defense, but their offense can keep up. That's kind of what Baker did in college, though he had a pretty solid defense. For Lamar Jackson, who is also a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, he very much was underrated as a passer, but he made so many more plays with his legs. He was electric. He was track fast. Baker is athletic fast, shifty, move around quick. Lamar will hit a hole and take off like a bullet out of the gun,
So like Johnny Manziel fast?
Who's Manziel fast?
So Baker's like Johnny Manziel fast?
I hate that. I'm sad that you brought that up, that analogy, but that was the whole conversation of the draft pick, is the analogy there. All the haters kind of attributed all of Baker's abilities to Johnny Manziel, and they were very similar in college, to be honest. You know, two of the best athletic quarterbacks in college football history, honestly. You know, and I will, as much as I have a disdain for Manziel because of the things that he did to piss away his career and all that stuff, and I not that I think he could have panned out in Cleveland, but he could have given himself a better shot. You know, but there are similarities and there are a lot of things. You know, Baker did have that one awesome run, one late night drunk in Oklahoma, outrunning the cops and got sacked for a loss. There's that similarity for him and Johnny football, but Baker is more poised. Baker is more pro ready. I think he's a little more mature. Johnny he came from money. He was spoiled. He was playing football for fun and happened to be good enough to go to the NFL. Baker, he worked his ass off to get where he is. He's a two-time walk-on, walked on to Texas Tech, walked on to Oklahoma, had to earn his keep, earn his spot, earn his damn Heisman Trophy, earn that win against the Buckeyes. You know, he really has worked his ass off and deserved everything he's gotten. So I see the comparison there, in definitely different circumstances, than Lamar Jackson. Lamar, I think, still looks kind of like a gadget quarterback that he has been used all year, and he's going to have to learn how to throw the ball. He's probably going to play the majority of the rest of the year, if not the rest of the year, and he's got some weapons around him. You know, that Gus Edmonds, that was unbelievable. Buck Allen, he's had a down year, but he's a good back. Alex Collins had a breakout year last year, but he's got Crabtree on the outside, Snead on the outside,
Smokey
John Brown on the outside. Yep. They've got like 17 tight ends. Like, they've got weapons there.
A first-round pick, even. They spent a first-round pick on a tight end. Hurst, I think it is.
Hayden Hurst, yeah. He was hurt coming into the season. He was kind of high on my fantasy radar because of his career and his size. He's a freak. He's like 6'6", 6'7". He actually played minor league baseball before he was drafted out of Arkansas. But there's a lot of weapons there, and there are some similarities. But I think that the difference between Baltimore and Cleveland is that Baltimore's system is in place and Lamar has to fit that mold. There's a lot of fun going to happen in Cleveland, especially against the Bengals, because we got to throw some wrinkles in there that old Hugh is not going to be whispering to Marvin's ear. And I think that Kitchens is going to bring that little bit of that college-type element to it and more fitting to Baker and what he's used to. So.
Well, I'm not sure why I keep talking badly about the Bengals, but Marvin's not going to be able to whisper in anybody's ear because he can't figure out how to use that button on his headset.
Yeah, you heard about this, didn't you, Brandon?
I did not.
So the first drive of the game, Marvin Lewis, who has not been a coordinator in many years, since 2004, I believe, is the last time he actually called plays. So he was not familiar the first drive on which button to press to actually communicate with the linebacker on the field, who, by the way, was Hardy Nickerson, and it was the first time he ever wore the helmet that had the communicator in it. And so there was a huge disconnect between Marvin Lewis and the linebacker because they literally could not communicate.
Man, is that not such a Bengals thing to happen?
It sounds like a Browns thing to happen. The Bengals just pulled it off well.
One time,
that's a Marvin thing.
And one time you guys didn't file a trade.
Yeah.
So that was.
Remember how well that worked out for you?
There was that.
Well done.
That worked out beautifully.
It did.
That worked out beautifully. Because now A.J. McCarron didn't play a snap in Buffalo in the regular season. He's backing up Derek Carr on a terrible Oakland Raiders team. So thank God that didn't work out for us.
I think Oakland's actually worse than you guys. So,
hey, we have 3 wins. There's a few teams worse than us, okay?
Oakland can't even tank right.
And a tie.
Oakland can't even tank right. They won last night. Obviously, the big story here the last couple weeks has been A.J. Green. We have seen how much he is, some could call it a crutch to Andy Dalton, and kind of inflating the quarterback that he is because he's such a prolific wide receiver. Others would say that he might just be the cog that makes all the other pieces turn in our offense. whichever way you look at it, though, if he doesn't play this week, or even if he plays limited, who else are you most worried about on our offense?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you're now starting to get into my keys of the game. I feel like we're going a little bit long here, but this is the week to talk Bengals and Browns because it is Bengals and Browns. One of my keys of the game was, will A.J. Green play? A.J. and Andy, I believe they both came in the same draft with 2011, right?
Correct.
Am I wrong?
Correct.
Yep.
That is very correct.
So Andy Dalton and A.J. Green have been together since 2011. Andy Dalton is, I'm going to get statty for a second, Andy Dalton is 11-3 versus Cleveland. The worst game of Andy Dalton's career, I know this is hard to believe, the worst game of Andy Dalton's career was on November 6, 2014. He posted a QBR of 2.
I remember that.
Not 20.
I remember
that game.
The Browns won 24-3, but of course, since he has not lost since, they won the last 7 meetings by a combined score of 213-63. Since he has scored at least 30 points in 6 out of 7 of those games, and Cleveland has scored 17 or fewer in all 7 of those matchups. And the catalyst there, I believe, is A.J. Green. He is one of the top, I would say, it depends if you look at it from a statistical standpoint or a fantasy standpoint, it doesn't matter. He's a top 3, top 5 receiver in the league. And there are weeks that he shows up and he looks like the best receiver in the league, and there are weeks that he shows up and you wonder if he actually showed up. So that's a big question. That was one of the things I looked up as I was waiting to come on with you guys. He is trending in the right direction. There is a good chance for AJ to play this week, which I think will be huge. Because what that would do is that would essentially tie up our best defensive back, Denzel Ward, who is a rookie, will be locking down AJ with some help over the top, which could open up some things for your offense. But if AJ doesn't play, honestly, I feel like Gio Bernard is the biggest threat in the passing game. He's a huge threat out of the backfield. I love Gio Bernard from a fantasy standpoint, much like I love Duke Johnson for the Browns from a fantasy standpoint. They are PPR monsters. They get yards, they catch balls, they also get touches too to give spells to the starting running back. So Cincinnati is very young at receiver, thin at tight end. I think there's more injuries at tight end than there are at linebacker. But if the Browns can shut down Tyler Boyd, who I'm also very high on, broke all kinds of Larry Fitzgerald records at Pitt. Doesn't mean he's the second coming of Larry Fitzgerald, but I knew that he would come into his own a couple of years into the league. I honestly don't feel like John Ross can beat you. He may be able to beat you down the field, but if he outruns you and you're burnt on a streak, he's probably going to drop the ball anyways. But I really do think that Gio will be the biggest threat as far as replacing AJ in the passing game. But ultimately, the Browns have to shut down Mixon in the run game.
So John Ross is Antonio Callaway. Noted.
And you are right. I've got Callaway in a fantasy league. I've only held on to him because it's a marriage with Baker on my bench in a different formatted league. And you are right. Callaway may lead the team in targets, but he also leads the team in drops.
Score. All right. So are we missing any points that you have to keys to the game here?
Well, if we want to kind of put a bow on it, if you will, my keys to the game here are that Baker must be able to make plays with his legs to avoid the Cincinnati pass rush. Again, this is what I talked about with you guys being thin at linebacker and your DBs are inconsistent. If he can get to the second level and make some linebackers miss and some DBs miss, he might be able to hit for some big runs, maybe to convert third and long situations, or perhaps even bust a long TD run. I think that's a huge key for us, for maybe Baker to have a little more of that college element in this matchup than he has in games past. But also, Cleveland's got to try to run the ball. They've got to be able to pound Chubb to wear down the defense. Duke Johnson will be one to watch in the passing game. Like I touched on, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, change it up. I think that seeing Chubb and Duke on the field at the same time is big for the Cleveland defense, the Cleveland offense. And if that keeps Callaway on the sidelines, I'm all about that too. But he's so valuable in the checkdowns, which sometimes I think is Baker's second read. I think Baker's looking for Landry. And if Landry's not open, he looks for Duke. And if Duke's not there, he's off and running. And I think that they can create some big plays, but ultimately to have success, they got to be able to run the ball and limit mistakes. You can't turn over the ball. You can't throw interceptions. You can't fumble the ball. You got to have ball security. And penalties have been the downfall of the Browns so far this year. There's been some conversation about the refs kind of screwing the Browns, and there's some different situations where they could have cost them some games with some calls in some bad spots. But ultimately, penalties are penalties, and if you're holding or you're grabbing face masks or you're interfering, penalties are penalties, and if you can limit those turnovers and penalties and limit the mistakes, you got a real chance to win. And also a great way to do it too: control the clock, keep the ball, keep Andy Dalton and that offense off the field, and do what we can to beat the defense.
Kind of on the flip side of that, I think that our keys to the game are going to be Joe Mixon and establishing the run. I know you've already talked about Gio and all of that, and I think that's kind of my number 2 point, which would be we have to find another weapon. If AJ isn't playing, or even if he is playing, you got Tyler Boyd, but if you're double teaming Tyler Boyd when AJ's not on the field, who else you got? And if you're not running the ball, is Joe Mixon even a threat at that point? Because for me, the last thing I want is Cody Core on the field for 4th and 3 rather, and that's who you're hitting, because he's not catching anything. You hit him in the numbers. The ball bounced off his chest, and unfortunately, that's not the first time that's happened. So we have to be able to find a viable option behind even Tyler Boyd if AJ's not on the field, and that's got to come through, to your point, Gio, or even somebody who has more sure hands, whether that be an Alden Tate, whether that be Alex Erickson, who's back there. I know you don't want to get your returner injured. I get it. But at the same time, if he's got sure hands, you got to get the guy out there who can catch the ball. Beyond that, though, I don't. You already said, we're thin at tight end. We're thin at.
We're thin everywhere.
There's everywhere.
At linebacker, you're thin everywhere, and that's the thing. Like I said, when 100% healthy, the Bengals are a solid AFC North divisional foe, and I can't say that, not in the sense of like they're competitive with the Browns, because they've been beating our dicks in for 7 straight games, but I think that if we can defensively put some pressure on Andy Dalton and force him into some bad situations, maybe I wouldn't say force Mixon to beat us, because I think he can, because he is good, and Gio's back, like I said, and they will, and we're kind of on the same page. We think both offenses need to try to run the ball a lot, and that's why part of me thinks that this game being a rivalry game, you throw the records out the window and you show up and blah blah blah. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive football game. I think some points will be scored, but I think the defenses will play well, even though both of these teams are near the bottom in team defense in most categories, and literally are the bottom 2 in total yards allowed. I think that, and I won't get into my prediction score here, but I do kind of have two sides that I think it could be a competitive game where both defenses do show up and shut down the offenses or limit the offenses, or it could be the flip side. This could get into a kind of, not like a 55-51 final, but I mean there could be a little more scoring than we kind of anticipate if it turns into a passing showdown. But I think you and I are both on the same page to where we think that both teams really need to establish the run and pound the ball to really have any success going into Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, we joked about it earlier, but it comes down to Callaway versus Ross. Catch the damn ball.
That's terrifying. If that's what it comes down to, I'm not going to watch the game.
I don't think I want to watch in that situation either.
I mean, if AJ doesn't play, it comes down to that. If AJ plays, it's a whole different ball game, and no.
But is it?
No disrespect, but I mean, that's not looking good for you guys if we have a superstar like AJ out there, and you have Jarvis Landry catching 18 times for 42 yards.
Well, but here's the thing. Jarvis Landry has 57 catches for 600 yards and only 2 TDs. The dude gets targets and gets catches, but it's all like short underneath. He's our possession guy. He's our slot guy.
18 catches for 42 yards is not a crazy stat line for Jarvis Landry.
It's not
a good one.
But it helps with possession. It helps move the ball. You know, he's not the guy. In Miami, he had more bombs down the field where he's catching these long touchdowns, and he's not getting that here because we've got Callaway on the outside to stretch the field. You know, he should be a target guy. He should be a 10 to 20 catch guy. He should be close to 100 yards. You know, but you know, there's still some things to be seen again I think from Baker and the offense and how they evolve with Freddie Kitchens as the OC. But to your point, you know, I do think, you know, Denzel Ward has played really well, leads the team in picks with 3. You know, he's a rookie, but he's getting matched up with all the number ones. And going back to I wanted Bradley Chubb kind of pick, I was not mad about the Baker and Denzel Ward combination because you got to look at the AFC North. You got A.J. Green twice a year. You got Antonio Brown twice a year. And now the Baltimore doesn't have a true number 1, but they've got some depth there at the receiving core. So you got to have a true lockdown corner. And Denzel's kind of big. I mean, he's like 6'1", 6'3", in that range, kind of tall, lanky. So he can match up with these bigger receivers. He's athletic. You know, he actually, sadly, is kind of the part of the reason why we lost the Oklahoma game. The Ohio State lost the Oklahoma game a year ago. But I think he's playing really well. Myles Garrett is living up to his number one overall pick stature. You know, leads the team with 9 sacks. The next closest guy has 4.5. The sad defensive stat, again, I hate getting too statty with you, but our leading tackler is Demarius Randall with 49 tackles. That dude is a safety. You know, when your safety is leading, you know, if you have a safety leading your team in tackles, it's not Troy Polamalu or Ronnie Lott or, you know, there's a problem. And it's a lot because there's a lot of penetration from the running backs and the underneath where guys at the line and linebackers aren't making plays where the safety has to come up and do it. And I think that AJ is a big factor. I also think that, like I said, the Preston Brown injury, I think plays a big key role as well. But ultimately, AJ on the outside for Andy's sake, I think is probably the biggest key to the game there going into the matchup on Sunday.
Well, if you had to make a prediction, here we are. What you got?
So I'm not a big. I don't like to be wrong, and I don't like to look like an idiot if I totally spout off and say something that's asinine and whatnot. But that's kind of the nature of the game. So Sunday forecast is 54, partly cloudy, partly sunny, however you want to look at it. I will be coming back from Miami, Florida from Thanksgiving. I will hopefully come back into a nice Sunday afternoon to watch that matchup. Cleveland is actually getting 3 points, and the over-under is 47.5. So those numbers lead me to believe that the Vegas odds makers think it's going to be a pretty good game. You know, 3 points is about standard for, you know, a favorite and a dog and what they think. You know, it's not quite a coin flip. I don't know. I think Cincy would probably still be favored if it was in Cleveland, but that number may be like a 1.5 or so. I would probably lay some money on Cleveland and take the over. I just think it's going to be a pretty good game. Like I said earlier, I think it could be close, or it could it could be close in a low-scoring game, or it could be close in a high-scoring game. But my final prediction as of last night, I said Cleveland 27, Cincinnati 24. The Browns bring the dog pound to Cincy and get that first road victory since 2015.
I'm going to be short and sweet, 24-21 Bengals.
14-14 tie.
You say 14-14 tie? Well, the Bengals the Browns have damn near tied about 6 times this season.
And that's why I think it's going to be a tie.
That is great.
All right,
that's
great.
Great.
So I caught you a minute ago saying we. I know I'm gonna segue this. You were saying we, and I just want to remind you that this is a Buckeye State, and you can't spell that without UC.
Yeah, it's true.
However, it is Ohio State Michigan week, and I know you got something to say, so take your platform.
Well, I was just trying to give you guys some bonus coverage. And a side note, we had kind of talked pre-show and some prep about the UC conversation with the UCF. You know, Aaron and I, we were texting back and forth most of the game. First half, fairly entertaining, kind of close. UCF kind of pulled away. I will give you some props because you spoke to some things that a lot of the experts were talking about afterwards. about how the story of the game really was UCF's defense, who did not get a lot of love coming into this matchup. There was a lot of things that everybody knows. UCF's offense, their explosiveness, they're putting up points. They average 30, plus 30 points in their win streak, blah, blah, blah. And, the defense, I think, was the key for that win there. And I'm high on UC. I hope Urban sticks around, and I think that Braun will take the Louisville job, and I think that Fickle will at least hang around for one more year for your guys' sake, because it's really exciting what he's doing down there in Cincinnati. And I do think, no knock on the program, with it being the next five, the group of five. I think it will be kind of a stepping stone job for him, but for your guys' sake, I hope he's around for a little bit.
Us too, because we play you guys September 7, 2019.
Confirmed next year. All right. Well, that will be an exciting. I hope I'm on the podcast before then, but you definitely book me for that matchup. Indeed. And I look forward to seeing what you see, how they can close out the season, as well as what they can do in the postseason with the bowl. But your segue was beautiful into the game, Ohio State versus that team up north, Saturday at noon, as it always is. All time. Scum leads the series 58-49 with 6 ties. Ohio State has won 6 straight. This game is in Columbus. I think that Dwayne Haskins, J.K. Dobbins, and Mike Weber, if he's healthy enough to play, he did not play last week, must have big games. Ohio State's defense has been atrocious.
Sorry,
linebackers
you don't have Bosa anymore. He was really good.
Well, and that's in my notes too. Yeah, linebackers are nowhere to be found. Safeties are playing 15 yards off the ball and missing tackles. Sounds kind of like the Bengals.
I was going to say I've heard this story before. I've heard it.
But the pass rush has been lacking, and don't get me started on how bad we miss Joey Bosa, because though Draymond Jones and Chase Young were playing with their hair on fire the first few games after Joey was gone, I wouldn't say non-existent, but the pass rush has not been there like it was. So that team up north offense has not impressed me as much as they maybe they have the voters and everybody else in the country. Shea Butterson, I like to call him Shea Butter instead of Shea Patterson. I think he would have to take over the game with his feet, and he's shown some flashes. He's not really impressed me as a passer, but again, with our inconsistencies on defense, hell, Ed might be able to go out there and relive his flag football days and throw it around against Buckeyes defense right now.
He's got soft hands.
I got gloves.
Ultimately, their star linebacker, Chase Winovich, his status is unclear for the game. That could be a big factor. They're missing their standout linebacker. They do have another projected first-round linebacker out there, but if they're short a guy on defense, that could help us in the run game. And I think it might be, like I said earlier, like a Big 12 game. It could be a shootout. It could be a high-scoring game, more like a Big 12 instead of a Big 10. But I really do think that with the game being in Columbus, all the rumblings of Urban might retire and step away this year and all this nonsense. Ultimately, I think that it boils down to it's the game, and the Buckeyes will show up this weekend for the game, and they will come out victorious. I think the line was like 3.5. I don't like that. I would not put any money on it. I would not. I would not pick the Buckeyes to win that, cover that spread. I don't care if they win by 1 or 100, as long as they get the win in the end. That's all that matters.
Well, you mentioned Big 12. Some of the news coming out today is the Big 12 is talking about expanding again. I don't know what Ed's doing right now.
Go ahead.
All right. But yeah, Big 12 is talking about expanding again, and UC's already being kicked around as one of the teams being considered. So, just saying. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Right. I was listening to the Saturday morning cartoon intro.
Just didn't hear anything. No, I just wanted to throw that out there about you talking Big 12. It'd be nice to be.
And I tell you what, I thought that UC was UC is a good candidate for expansion in a few conferences. You and I have had this conversation before. I think with them being more of a basketball school, the ACC makes more sense instead of the AAC. I think they are a decent fit, and who they could beat in the Big Ten, but they'll never get into the Big Ten. I don't know that the Big 12 is the best conference for them, but the thing with that is, like I said, they don't play a ton of defense, and if you have a Luke Fickell, a defensive-minded coach with a good defense coming into that kind of conference, you could kind of shake things up. I mean, hell, the Big 12 school, Kansas, for God's sakes, they hired Les Miles. They're changing some things up too. So
did you see his
Virginia
conference, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Did you see Les Miles' conference, by the way, where he just kind of had like a brain aneurysm and stopped talking?
He was trying to go in the direction. I think he was trying to say like doing big things in the community or something like that. And that was awful.
It was uncomfortable.
But it's a good hire for Kansas. I saw on game day this weekend that Kansas, I think it was a decade ago, Kansas was ranked like number 2 in the country, which is hard to believe considering they didn't win a game for like 4 years or something asinine like that. But yeah, I think that UC, again, a program on the up and up, basketball program always been established. The football program, the additions to Nippert, making that a bigger, better facility. A great environment to play in, great college football atmosphere. I think that they are a good candidate for expansion. The AAC is, it's like, it is
like
that
Conference
little
USA.
brother, it's that next 5. There's no,
good there.
There's no real way to go up from there. And I think that if you can get into a bigger conference with a better affiliation there, it gives yourself and your program a shot to compete for, compete for a national championship if you're like a UCF, or to give yourself a better stage and national representation.
I think it gives us a couple more years with a Luke Fickell as well, but I digress.
Very possibly. I think it really depends on what all jobs come about.
Right.
I don't. Luke Fickell's not going to take a Pac-12 job. He's probably not going to. He wouldn't take a Big 12 job. If UC moved into that conference, boom, there you are. I see him in a cold weather, northern/East Coast type conference. Ultimately, Big Ten. Would make a lot of sense. I don't know that he would take the Purdue job. Darrell Hazel, who was there before Brom, he was at Ohio State for a little while as an assistant. I don't know that Fickell would take like a Purdue if Brom moved over, or if there were another like an East Coast, which we had the conversation about like Rutgers and Maryland not really having any business in the
Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, but we do know that Maryland is on an interim coach basis right now too. So who knows? And it's no knock on UC, but bigger programs, bigger conferences also equal bigger coaches' salaries and contracts.
Well, if Urban Meyer forgot where his office was, I could imagine Luke Fickell ending up there.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what he does? He actually just hits that little button on his keychain that leads him to his national championship trophy, and it just guides him right to his office.
At least he knows
the keychain.
At least he knows where the buttons are that he needs to push to communicate those types of things. But
he may have forgotten he had the keychain.
We don't have to turn the end of this interview, this segment, my segment. So no, we don't have to make it ugly and personal here. I know we're already running long, but if we want to get,
I was making a Marvin Lewis Urban Meyer joke. That was all that was. In any case,
good point.
While we got you here, we're just gonna go right into rounding third. Because we've gone long enough already. I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. We are doing kind of a small, segmented rounding third. And just because we don't want to say goodbye to you yet. So we only have 3 questions. I'm going to be asking all of them. So what's your favorite part about Thanksgiving?
What if I have a question? Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. You can ask a question too.
Yeah?
Okay. Go ahead, Aaron.
Who are you asking first, Aaron?
It doesn't matter. Whoever wants to answer. What's your favorite part about Thanksgiving?
Turkey. No, sweet potato casserole. And green beans with those French's onions.
I mean, is it the food? Is it the football? Is it being around family and all that? Because my next question is actually, what's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
Oh, snap. Football. It's Thanksgiving is my favorite. It's football.
Just
Brandon?
like a 7-year-old.
yes, he is. Honestly, for me, it is Thanksgiving. It's the tradition of. Things have changed over the course of 5 to 10 years with having a wife and kids now, and the way things are treated. But my memories are always, getting up, going to one side of the family, eating some food, watching football, going to the other side of the family, eating some food, watching some football. So ultimately, it is food and football, but it's all centered around being around family, and that's what means the most to me. I'll be traveling to Miami to go hang with the in-laws, so I will be wearing short shorts, drinking my wild turkey, eating my turkey on Thanksgiving. But ultimately, I'm just thankful to be around my family on the holiday.
Jeez, thanks for making me sound like a horrible dad.
I'll be going to Massachusetts where it's like 5 degrees, so that's fun.
Yeah, enjoy that nor'easter.
12-hour drive.
I'll be waking up early to play some flag.
So your favorite side, Ed, you said was
Sweet potato casserole.
All right, Brandon, what you got?
So I actually thought about this earlier because Golic and Wingo there's a chance that Golic might rank sides tomorrow, and I got to thinking to myself. I said, if I had to choose, I'm very much a stuffing/dressing guy.
That's a good point.
Homemade or stovetop?
I enjoy both. Actual turkey stuffing. I enjoy a dressing being made. I like them to be moist and succulent. I like them to be a little bit dry and crunchy, which neither of those sound appealing necessarily, but I would say my favorite Thanksgiving side is the stuffing/dressing.
That's fair.
All right. I forgot to answer the favorite part about Thanksgiving, by the way.
Oh, yeah, what's your favorite?
You did.
I did. My favorite part is probably the nap.
Oh, yeah.
Selfishly. It's
the
just
tryptophan.
between the turkey and the football and propping feet up and being around everybody, there's literally no stress anymore at that point because dinner's already done. Nobody's freaking out. Kids are usually calming down. It's about getting dark at 4:30. So for me, it's that nap. And then my favorite side, I'm gonna say mashed potatoes, and I don't even require gravy. I'm just going mashed potatoes.
Does it have to be real mashed potatoes, or it have to be those like the spuds in the box?
I'm going homemade mashed potatoes on that.
And so you going Russell, or are you going red?
No, I don't like the red mashed potatoes. No, not like just the regular.
Russet,
Thank
not
you.
Russell.
And do you like the skin on, or do you like the skin off?
I don't really care as long as somebody else is making them.
Okay, that's fair.
Can't be picky.
Don't sleep on the Bob Evans microwavable mashed potatoes.
Hey,
No, nobody's doing that.
listen, your boy over here,
Nobody's doing that.
this guy brought to Ed's Friendsgiving this past week. He brought Bob Evans straight from Bob Evans
It's
mashed
still-
potatoes.
Still in the refrigerator, and I'm going to have some after this interview.
All right. Do you get dressed up to sit in the living room, dining room, wherever you do your Thanksgiving?
No. I put a hoodie on, usually a pair of shorts, and probably something wrapped around my knee because I'm always getting injured in the Thanksgiving morning football. So, no.
Brandon, I feel like you guys are dressed up people.
Well, not to make Ed look like a slob one more time, but yes, I usually make sure that I wear a collar. It is an appropriate
Just sit in the
holiday
living room?
to wear a collar. It's at least a little bit of a dress up. I'm not a church goer, period. But the church that I went to as a youngster was a very casual church. But you still kind of wore a collar out of respect for Grandma, and I kind of feel that same way when you're going into the holidays.
So I'm usually like...
However, I'll probably wear a tank top and swimming trunks because I'll be in Miami, Florida.
Because I'll be in Florida. There it is. Yeah, we don't even feel bad about the Ohio State jokes anymore.
Nope.
Yeah, we're going to Massachusetts, like I said. Mom's going to be there. All the kids are going to be there. There's going to be photo ops because we haven't seen Alyssa's family since, like, July. So, yeah, we'll probably be in, again, also some type of collar or nice-ish, but sweatpants shortly thereafter when the photo ops are over.
You're going to wear a turtleneck.
Ooh, no. Not unless I have
One of
a
those
chain.
Old school mock neck, half turtleneck sweaters.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one of those in my senior photo.
Have you never listened to Lonely Island?
Me
Ed?
too.
She liked me for my chain and my turtleneck sweater.
Never heard that one
That's
either.
literally the name of an album. Ed, what are you thankful for?
Oh, put me on the spot.
Yep.
Friends, family, and
Not his computer.
2 friends living large in Texas.
Texas forever.
Texas forever.
It's forever.
Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer.
Yes.
What you got, Brandon? I'm
Well,
gonna be
first
in
of all,
Florida.
not that I'm thankful for, but I am thankful that you guys had me on today. I'm glad to be a part of the program. You guys are doing big things, and I'm glad to be a part of it. But ultimately, yeah, family. Like I said, being able to spend time with the family, and we just celebrated. Actually, today is Carter Grace's 4th birthday. It's just hard to believe. So happy birthday to her. Shout out to my firstborn. But ultimately, man, I got happy and healthy family is all I can ask for. I got a roof over my head. I got a good job and a great family and good friends that I can sit here and shoot the shit and talk sports and nonsense with. It's a good day.
I'm thankful for my wife who puts up with me and my nonsense. I'm thankful for
We're thankful for her too.
man. I'm thankful for my family who's always been incredibly supportive. I'm thankful for the opportunity to get to do this once a week with somebody who we just had been doing this anyway between the two of us, and now people actually want to hear it. Thankful for the people who actually listen.
Oh yeah.
So there's that. So I don't know. There's plenty of stuff to be thankful for. I'm sure I'm missing about 84 different things right now, and that's probably on the short list. But that's what I got right now. So, Brandon, you want to stick around for Bum of the Week? Can you come up with
He
something?
had a
real quick?
question.
Oh yeah, you did have
Yeah.
a question. What you got?
I was going to save it for another time, but I would like to see to ask what is your favorite football movie of all time?
I know mine. Real quick.
Go. Oh,
Any Given Sunday. Yep, Any Given Sunday. Al Pacino in that speech at the very end where it's the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. It's all about the inches in front of your face. Yeah.
It's the inch.
Huh?
It's the inch.
It's the inch.
Yeah, the whole speech is about the inch.
Mine
I probably
is,
messed up the quote, but yeah.
It's a toss-up between Invincible and Remember the Titans.
Marky Mark versus Denzel.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I know your homerism to Friday Night Lights, the
TV show.
series.
Yeah.
I was curious if that also was your favorite movie there. I've always been, I watched Varsity Blues every night, every Thursday night before Friday, because I played on Friday night, and that was kind of that played more to me. But Remember the Titans came out back then when I was in school, so that probably ranks up there as my number one. But I've got a long list of favorites, but I would say Remember the Titans probably goes down to my number one. So.
All right. Well, if you want to stick around and come up with one on the fly, here we go. Bum of the Week.
Cause you're training like a damn bum, you know that? Bum. A bum.
You're a bum. And that's all you'll ever be. A bum.
Well, that hurts, man.
Ed, you got a Bum of the Week?
I do. My bum of the week. Go ahead with yours.
All right. Well, I don't like to do this. I don't like to call out people at home, and it's a little uncomfortable for me. But Marvin Lewis, you lost a winnable game in Baltimore, where we had beat Baltimore 8 of the last 10. The headset situation, are you kidding me? You couldn't practice how to use an effing headset all week? And, not to mention, we literally can't beat a rookie quarterback. I believe the year that we lost to the Texans in the playoffs, we lost to the Texans twice. That's why I'm nervous about Baker. Yeah, I hear you. And it was a bad call even having Cody Core in the game. But I'm going with Marvin Lewis.
So mine is going to be the Canadian curling team. And I'm not sure that if I'm mad at them or if I'm just like jealous. But apparently they were kicked out of the World Curling Tour because they showed up drunk. Extremely drunk, breaking brooms, swearing, just unacceptable behavior. And nobody wanted to watch that. So I don't know if I'm mad at them or just mad that they didn't invite me.
I'm impressed. I'm not even mad. How did you do that? You pooped in the refrigerator and ate a whole wheel of cheese?
I feel like curling is one of those sports, though, where you could drink a couple beers and have some fun. It's like cornhole, but on ice.
Or recording a podcast.
Or that, too.
Brandon, who you got?
I should say that Ed should be my bum of the week, because how dare you say that the actual Canadian curling team was your bum of the week when it should be the official who kicked them out of the tournament for being too drunk. But I will refrain from insulting the host of the podcast that was so gracious to have me on.
That's actually fair.
I don't want to insult Ed. And it's easy to say Hugh Jackson, but I've got to say it's going to be Hugh Jackson for not necessarily getting himself fired. The writing was on the wall. But for him to cowardice make his way back to Cincinnati and make himself feel right back at home, nestled into Marvin Lewis's back pocket, and try to see if he can't get some redemption on his team. But also good on him, because he may very well be the next head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. But I would definitely say, just to get some frustrations out as a Browns fan, Hugh Jackson would be my bum of the last 2 years.
He's also getting paid by both teams.
That is true.
I think that makes him the Stugatz of the week.
I can't say that.
Stugatz is strong in you.
In any case, Brandon, we definitely want to thank you for coming on with us and giving us your time. I know your bedtime was about an hour and a half ago, and you got kids, so I can't.
We didn't go long at all, did we?
No, not even a little bit. Yeah, okay. The tone was set well before we even got on the phone with you. So, with that all being said, though, thank you for coming on. I know it was a long night for you, especially with all of Ed's computer issues, which, if you listen long enough to the end of the podcast, you might hear an outtake or two. So, with all of that being said, Brandon, definitely don't be a stranger. We appreciate all the support that you've given us, both on the side with your critique of our podcast and also being a long-term, since the jump, friend of the show. So for that,
yes, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Without getting too sentimental and keeping a long story short there, thank you very much for having me. I look forward to future appearances, and good luck this weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys and your families. Safe travels where you're getting and going. And go Browns and go Bucks.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you for listening. We appreciate you. We are thankful for you. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. For Ed and Brandon, I'm Aaron. We out.
Peace.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
I have a slight problem.
If you don't live in Cleveland, you could live in Dayton as well. Okay, no knocking on Cleveland. This is all. We got to be friendly tonight.
Did you lose the monitor?
I don't know what just happened.
Did you lose the monitor?
We're doing this again?
No, the monitor's still here.
This isn't plugged in.
That's not supposed to be plugged in. This has never happened before.
We might be doing it again.
Well, I'm not surprised that there are technical difficulties by any means.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I cleared my evening schedule for you guys, so.
Instead of just going to bed after drinking 2 beers by yourself.
My bedtime is in 18 minutes, but